Hello friends, what's going on? Welcome back to this channel, Football Fed Up here with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I genuinely really do hope that. Welcome back to, I suppose, a kind of Chelsea news video. I want to talk about players that have come through for Graham Potter's Chelsea, how we're changing and how we will continue to change for the better. As well as maybe talking about Christopher Nkunku's medical and how he approved the Chelsea move. We'll look at that. And Leandro Trossard, a hot topic at the moment because, of course, scored a hat-trick away at Anfield, has been linked to Chelsea, and did make a comment about how it'd be, he'd accept the move. How could he turn down the move to a big club like Chelsea to work under his former manager, Graham Potter? We'll talk about positions, who's likely to play, etc. It's going to be a fun video, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for dropping a like on the content. It means a lot to me. You there, sweet viewer / sometimes listener, liking the video is a way of supporting your content creator. You're welcome to subscribe, and should you choose to do so, baby, hit that sweet, sweet bell, baby. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Where's my overlay, dude? All right. Let's get into it. First of all, I do want to reflect on, a Premier League game and a Champions League game under new coach Graham Potter. And, often, not always the easiest watch, still frustrating, echoes of the previous regimes with the problems that brought, and that's, expected. But there are more risk-taking passes, and that's generally what Graham Potter wants. And, yesterday we saw some things that we haven't seen in a while. I mean, both goals, a clinical striker, instinctive in the box, swivel, not even looking where the goal is, just puts it in the corner in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, wearing the number 9, by the way, the cursed number 9 shirt. And, of course, a long-range drive with, Conor Gallagher at the end with the cojones to, win the game for Chelsea. Again, we used to get that from Frank Lampard and stuff and people outside the box, but we haven't had that in a long time either. So we've been treated. Look, we played a different formation yesterday. We played very much a back four. When I saw that lineup before the game started, I was like, yeah, well, no, Chilwell's probably going to tuck in. Raheem Sterling's probably going to play a little bit left wing back. But no, indeed, we played a solid back four, and it was very interesting because a lot of people, that might be their first choice back four. Koulibaly will feel like he needs to get in eventually because he is 4, 5 years, 6 years younger than Thiago Silva, and maybe Cucurella will think, okay, well, I know how to play under Potter, and Chilwell didn't have the greatest game, but let's start at the back, because Kepa Arrizabalaga had a great game, and my hot take before Potter came in was that Kepa will become, or could become, Chelsea's number 1. People laughed at me. But look at us now. He had a great game yesterday against Palace. He's been generally pretty good. If you haven't seen my post-match presser from yesterday after the game, I'd urge you to go watch that because I speak about the game in detail after it's just happened, essentially. But I talk about how Kepa, he's that kind of footballer that never necessarily makes you feel safe. He's a bit erratic and he's a bit like Mendy brought a presence of calm, and that's why, things worked out so well. I feel like I'm not in the centre here. Anyway, I do think Kepa's better with his feet. I think his ceiling's probably higher than Mendy. It's just all about confidence and settling in with him. Mendy had an amazing story at Chelsea. Like, he was a bit underrated at Round, maybe, and then came to Chelsea and sort of elevated. But the thing is, Kepa was identified as this world-class potential by, Chelsea, and indeed Real Madrid. They wanted him instead of David De Gea and before Thibaut Courtois for a while. Anyway, I think there's a good chance, because of what I've said in previous videos about what Graham Potter did with his goalkeeping coach when they swapped Ryan, who was a good goalkeeper, for Sanchez, who had a great game in Anfield yesterday, because he was better with his feet. I think there's a chance with Kepa. With the back four as well, if it is a back four, I don't know, because Ben Chilwell's probably more offensive than Cucurella. Cucurella has been deployed. I know, maybe he has been deployed at wing-back as well. It's very, very tricky, because Cucurella is so highly rated. He cost Chelsea a lot of money. Graham Potter has worked with him before, and Ben Chilwell didn't perhaps have the most effective game yesterday. Of course, he came back into the side, I think under Tuchel, was it Tuchel when he scored that goal? Was it West Ham? He scored that great goal. He's absolutely a better goal threat than Cucurella, Ben Chilwell. He's got a striker's instinct in the box. But if we're going to play back four, and have more attackers on the pitch, and perhaps you need that left back to be a little bit more defensively resolute, who still releases the ball quickly, then there's a good chance Cucurella completes that back four, with, of course, Reece James on the other side. And Fofana, yes, he made that mistake, but he recovered from that mistake against Crystal Palace very, very well indeed. And you guys know me, I've waxed lyrical about this kid for a long, long time. I'm still absolutely elated he plays for Chelsea. And, if you say, right, you partner with him with one more, why not Thiago Silva? Absolute Rolls Royce until he slows down, and we'll have to see evidence of that. Of course, they will both speak French to each other in terms of communicating in the back line. And there we go. I'm going to talk about Trossard maybe in Nkunku in a bit, but I want to talk about players that Graham Potter will select. Now, midfield is ruddy tricky. In terms of selecting number 8s, you could definitely go for quality in Mateo Kovacic and, of course, Mason Mount, both of which played quite poorly yesterday. Mason Mount hasn't played well for Chelsea this season. I don't think it's too much of a hot take. I don't think he's been awful. His numbers are okay. But in terms of the eye test, I don't think Mason Mount's been great this season, which is a shame because he's got it in his locker to be very influential. And he was trained as a number 8, and this is his position to make his own. So, I feel like he'll eventually get, if he gets out of the team for a bit, it is what it is, but I think he'll probably make his way back into the team. And of course, you've got to think about people like Conor Gallagher, who has come off the bench and done what he's asked. Whether Ruben Loftus-Cheek, again, he's like a number 8 as well. All these players would thrive in the number 8 role. Kovacic can play a double 6, but he likes to progress the ball up the pitch. Not so much goals and assists, but he's really, really useful for playing through the lines. But if you look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, these 3 number 8s, English number 8s through the Chelsea Academy, they're really, really good, and there's a goal threat in all 3 of them. So this kind of makes you think Chelsea should play a midfield 3 with number 8s, and these guys can all be selected, as well as N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic. But it doesn't leave much for the lone 6 CDM. Now, Jorginho had a poor game yesterday, and Denis Zakaria played for his international team, didn't look great. But if we can get the Borussia Mönchengladbach version of Denis Zakaria from a few years ago, our midfield is screaming out for Zakaria. I know a lot of you said that in the post-match presser comment section yesterday, quite rightly so. We need that conventional style stopper CDM. Jorginho is great when it works, but if we are going to play a midfield 3 or even a 4-2-3-1 with that midfield 2, you still need someone who's going to sit more. It could be really cooling out for Denis Zakaria, and it kind of makes sense Chelsea looking in the market again for a sort of CDM, whether it's the guy from Ajax, or forgetting his name, or someone else, do you know what I mean? Or even Jude Bellingham doesn't really fit the bill there. Declan Rice technically would, but he's not had the best season after having 2 great seasons. So let's move on to the forwards. Of course, Chelsea are linked with loads and loads of forwards. Chelsea do still want to splash out. Fabrizio Romano said this about Christopher Nkunku, of course, the ex-PSG, now Leipzig French attacker. We've spoken about him recently. Christopher Nkunku has had a medical with Chelsea. It was not a personal medical. The Chelsea staff were there. It was for Chelsea. Chelsea have sent a proposal to the player, which he is happy with. With Leipzig, there's still work to do on an agreement. Now, of course, we reacted to this story of Christopher Nkunku. He's had a medical with Chelsea. Chelsea are being really stringent with their new medicals. Of course, Todd Bowley, Clear Lake, they sent Wesley Fofana to the United States to do his medical, to have their Dodgers staff look at him, because they feel like they've got better facilities and better doctors out there. And they're probably right. They're probably the medical, even if Chelsea have got good medical stuff, you can understand why they're massive operation out there that's been going really well for a long, long time. They've got really good private doctors out there, so it makes sense. So they probably used similar people, brought them to Frankfurt to do Christopher Nkunku's medical, which presumably he passed. There is a release clause next summer, but the player is happy to join Chelsea. And he wants to join Todd Bowley. Apparently, he didn't want to work with Thomas Tuchel again, who I guess their paths would have crossed at Paris Saint-Germain. Thomas Tuchel didn't utilise him, and of course, he ended up going to Leipzig. Now, a lot of people might dig Thomas Tuchel out for that. If that's your prerogative. Sometimes a player needs to go somewhere else to just do well. It's just the way things go. So, of course, Christopher Nkunku is an option. Leandro Trossard is, of course, a big talking point because he scored a hat-trick away at Anfield yesterday. And he's an exciting player. He starts for Belgium, I think, now. He just looks an absolute threat. He's in his prime, and of course, Graham Potter's a big fan. Fabrizio Romano goes on to talk about Trossard in terms of links with Chelsea. At the moment, there's not a link, though. When the question was posed to the Belgian about joining his former boss Graham Potter and transferring to Chelsea, he reacted very positively and said, how could I say no to that? Whether that's going to happen, I do not know, but it makes you think about our current attackers, which I wanted to go on and talk about. Of course, we've got Hakim Ziyech. I don't know if he's injured or rested. He didn't see the pitch yesterday. I don't know if he's on the bench. But you do feel like perhaps his time is done at Chelsea. Pulisic, he might have a revival under Graham Potter. He looked good when he came on yesterday. Generally for Chelsea, since Lampard and since that injury where he looked really good in the FA Cup final and got the hamstring injury after he scored, he's almost done better off the bench, and he'd been given chances to start. And I'm talking about the front three, I'm not talking about wing back, but he can really affect the game sometimes off the bench. And I remember tweeting that like a year ago, saying that. I feel like, so if Potter fancies him and thinks he can do a job, then, Pulisic's got a chance. If Mason Mount becomes more of a midfielder than an attacker, you think, right, so who's going to start? Raheem Sterling's nailed on. Because he's like a big signing, Chelsea probably gave him, promises of game time to a degree. He's really, really hardworking. Like Mason Mount, he's sort of a manager's dream in terms of tactical instruction and work rate, so you feel like his place is safe. Seemingly, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, we've given him a 2+1 deal, so he's here, do you know what I mean? And apparently he's working really, really hard. Everyone was concerned for him after Thomas Tuchel got canned, because he came for Tuchel. But Graham Potter said, he's delighted to work with him, and his attitude's really good, despite what Mikel Arteta of Arsenal will tell you. And he didn't look great in the Champions League game against Salzburg. He looks like a bit of a passenger. But yesterday, he did look good. He was making the runs. He scored a fantastic goal, which, again, I'll reiterate, it's something we haven't seen, that striker's instinct. He has to keep it up, of course. And then Kai Havertz was okay, I feel like. But there's space there for someone to really come in and just say, look, I'm going to score a bunch of goals. And whether that's Christopher Nkunku or, a lot of people want to see Armando Broja. But again, Broja, like Gallagher, like Christian Pulisic, they might play a lot, but they might play a lot off the bench. Of course, there's 5 substitutions this season, which has benefited these players greatly. Even if they get half an hour a game, remember, they're not on loan at Southampton or Crystal Palace anymore. They're at Chelsea. This is Chelsea, and this is the ambitions of the owners, the money spent, the players you're playing with. You're with Aubameyang, Thiago Silva, Kante now. You're not in Palace or, the Saints. Do you know what I mean? So you come on and play a half an hour with them, or 20 minutes. That's a lot, and that's an opportunity for you to affect the game. You're young, you're high octane, you're energetic. All 3 of them, Broja, Pulisic, and Gallagher. Pulisic's still young, by the way. All of them will want to fight their way onto the pitch to start, and they'll have an opportunity to do so. And then they'll push out, say, those other players who are also quality, that will then have their opportunity to play most games, but maybe off the bench. So the fact of Chelsea having an array of forwards and attackers is okay now, because we've got the 5 substitutes. Look, man, I think Potter will learn a lot. We've got so many games in October, and we need them. It's all very well having all this time on the training pitch, learning your players, talking about tactics and ideas, but you need games to develop. And you know what, Potter, mate? You've got a lot. Learn about your players. Maybe someone will surprise you. Maybe Ziyech will make himself undroppable. Do you know what I mean? You've got time now. Do a full analysis. Be kind but brutal, and come off the January and then summer transfer window, rebuild. And I'm not calling out for Denis Zakaria to start in the midfield just because I want that kind of profile. If he's stinking up the gaff for his national team, then don't bring him on yet. But that profile eventually, I think, needs to come into the midfield because we're too soft at the moment. But I'm feeling positive, and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts as well. So please do comment down in the comment section below, and I'll be down there reading them. Thank you for... why is that not working? Dropping a like on the video and subscribing. And yeah, man, that's it from me. So I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.